Hello, I am the New Age Movie Rebel, and I'm here to tell you a story about the one and only zombie comedy out there that is claimed to be the best zombie comedy that also throws in a ton of humor while also keeping you on edge about the zombies. Not just any zombies, British zombies. British zombies. British zombies. Anyway, so this is a review of Shaun of the Dead. Shaun of the Dead. Okay. So basically, Shaun is a played by Simon Pegg. Now, Simon Pegg is at a bar called, well, not a bar, they call it a pub. They're at the pub called the Winchester. Now, he's with his friends Ed, played by Nick Frost, and his girlfriend, Liz. And, yeah. So he's with his girlfriend Liz, and they're talking at the pub. Going back and forth, talking about where their relationship is going and that sort of thing. Ed, in the background, is making a lot of grunting noises and that sort of thing. He's swearing all over the place. He's playing an arcade game on the side, and they just ordered drinks and that sort of thing. And so they're going back and forth. And it turns out that Liz's and Shaun decides to become more committed and take Liz out on a real date somewhere nice. So he sets up to go to a restaurant down the road. So he says that, they leave. Next thing you know, you get a brief overview of what what's like in London. That's where they are, in London. Then next thing you know, Liz ends up breaking up with Shaun after Shaun apparently blows off them being able to go to the restaurant because he forgot to set a reservation at the restaurant. So after that happens, Liz breaks up with him. All in the process of him, he buys flowers for his mother for Mother's Day. I mean, not Mother's Day, but his weekly visit with his parents. Not his dad and mom, but just his mom and his stepdad. So he goes, and after he breaks up with Liz, after he brings her the flowers that he was going to bring to his mom for her. And after that, it breaks up. Then afterward, he meets up with Ed, Nick Frost, at the pub, the Winchester pub. And he's really distraught, really depressed. And one of my favorite lines from the movie afterward is so ironic. Right after Ed's like giving him all these faulty speeches about how his life's going to go on, that sort of thing, it's like, hey, it's not the end of the world. And then right after that, one of these zombies that they don't know is zombies is right outside the door, and he starts knocking on the door with his hand. And that's when they cut away. And afterward, they get really drunk, and they come stumbling out of the bar, and they see that zombie out in the street, but they just think he's like some sort of drunkard because he's moving real slowly and just going. So anyway, they go back to his place. They wake up the next morning, completely hungover. Shaun goes to the mini mart down the road to buy a cornetto. Not realizing that the entire place has been wiped out and destroyed by the zombies. And he just stumbles in there, he grabs his cornetto, he leaves like some money on the counter for the shop guy, and he leaves. Still not realizing that there is actually like tons of zombies hanging around just stumbling through the streets, and he's not realizing any of this. He runs through, gets back home, looks at Ed, and Ed's not sitting on the couch anymore. Ed turns and he finds that he's looking out the window towards the garden. And Ed comes around and he says, "There's a girl in the garden." So they go to investigate. Shaun goes to see what she's doing. Turns out she's a zombie, and they only find out she's a zombie after they accidentally knock her over into a stand-up pipe that happens to be laying down, and she gets literally stuck through. the middle down through the spine, and she they know she's a zombie because she literally just gets right back up out of it, and there's a huge hole through her back, and they just. It's so funny because they're going through. He's just doing all these iconic like comedy things, like so many things that they're doing that are supposed to be serious and scary, but it's really funny. And so they look on the news, and there's another zombie, a big fat zombie, comes through, and they try to break into their house to get them. And the next thing you know, they say, here on the news, the only way to stop these zombies is by removing the head or destroying the brain. So, of course, they go and they get all this stuff that they're going to use to throw at the zombies' heads to try to, kill them. Turns out none of it works. It wasn't heavy enough. So what do? They go and earlier Ed had thrown a record out the window, and it was the second album Shaun had ever bought. And Ed literally picks it up, and Shaun's like, "Wait, no, that's the second album I ever bought." No, and he throws it, and it literally smashes up against the zombie's face, and it literally like really stops and slows him down and hurts him. So then they come up with the idea, well, let's just do that. So Shaun gets his huge case of nothing but old classic records, and they start chucking these records at him. And it's just funny because they're literally just like, they're 10 feet, like 50 feet away, and they're slow as hell. They're literally just searching through all these records to see which one they can, they want to get rid of to throw at these zombies. Well, these zombies are barely moving an inch. So the shed's locked, that's why they didn't get in. But then eventually Shaun's like, screw it. And he's going to the shed. And Ed's like, well, I thought it was locked. Next thing you know, camera pans. Shaun's smashing through the door of the shed. So this is where Ed and Shaun get their weapons. Ed turns out to get a really small, short-ended shovel, but with a blunt end. And Shaun gets this long, big wooden cricket bat. Afterward, they beat up the zombies literally to a pulp. They smash their heads in with these two objects. And, so they go on from that. And so then Shaun realizes he has an idea. He wants to save Liz and try to get to her, and that they're all going to get together and go to the Winchester. The pub. Yes, the pub. They're going to the Winchester pub to bunker down and try to last out the rest of this. So Shaun goes through and he takes one of his roommate's cars, Pete or whatever, and it turns out Pete was turned into a zombie and has been locked in the bathroom of their house. So yeah, they go through. They literally drive over to Shaun's mom's place, and where apparently Shaun's stepdad has been bitten and turned into a zombie. Shaun goes through, but he hasn't been turned into a zombie yet. So they just literally go through and they pick him up. But it turns out they're ambushed by a couple zombies. Shaun's stepdad gets bitten even more. He's bleeding all over the place, but he hasn't died yet. So they're going through, and stepdad, and they go drive by Liz's, and he picks them up. And all that. They get in the car, they drive away, right in the middle of a section, right before they hit the Winchester. Turns out, Shaun's dad dies after having this long, comedic speech, and turns into a zombie while they're still in the car. Ed stops the car, drops out, and then they get out of the car, and they have to abandon the car and their objects that they're using to beat up the zombies with in the car. This is where they go through the gardens and stuff, like houses, across fences and yards, so that way they can finally reach the Winchester and get to their quote unquote safe haven. So they reach the yard. Right beyond that fence is the Winchester. So what does Shaun do? He goes through and he looks on the other side of the fence to see if it's safe. It wasn't. It turns out there's got to be like hundreds upon hundreds of zombies just literally roaming the streets, literally 2 feet in front of the doors of the Winchester. So what do? They come up with a plan to make themselves look and sound like zombies, so hopefully the zombies will not attack them going through this. Which they do. They go through, They go across the fence. They accidentally look like zombies, just standing right next to each other. And then they're doing all this, and so they eventually get to the door. But it turns out the zombies are smarter than they think, because as soon as they get to the door to try to open it, it's locked, and they try to get the people on the other side to open it, but there's nobody there. So they can't get through the door. The zombies are starting to notice. They go on. Shaun literally sacrifices himself. He tracks all the zombies and runs away, so that way they can have a chance to get inside while he's running away from the zombies. That's what happens. They get inside. There's no power, no cable, no power, no cooler, nothing. So, so that's what happens. Eventually, Shaun comes back after a long interlude. Shaun comes back and they ask him, how did they lose the zombies? And he's like, he just gave him the slip, and so on and so forth. So then they turn and they say, okay, well, the power's coming back on. But the problem is that the only way they can get to the power is to get to the breakers in the back of the restaurant. So they go through. He gets to the power. Turns out that the zombies hadn't really lost him. He turns on the lights in the back. It turns out the zombies are literally right behind the door. They see him. He runs away back into the bar, where he tells the others he messed up, and they're still coming after him. And then after this, during this time, they're basically going back to back. Zombies, attack zombies. Zombies are coming in. They grab a Winchester rifle, which was supposed to be deactivated, but turns out isn't, behind the bar. So they get the gun, and they have Shaun operate it. He shoots it, that sort of thing. He kills a bunch of zombies. This is another interesting fact. It turns out Shaun's mother has been bitten by a zombie a long time ago, and didn't tell him because he didn't want her to be. She didn't want him to be worried. She ends up dying. Very sad, and she ends up having to be killed by Shaun after turning into a zombie. That's the sad portion of the movie. Anyway, back on. They're all being trashed by zombies. Zombies kills both of Liz's friends. And then afterwards, Shaun has this big interlude where it turns out his friend Pete got bitten by a zombie, turned into a zombie, and then now is coming after Ed, bites Ed, and that sort of thing. Ed ends up surviving, but only to a point where they actually get underneath the bar into the cellar, away from the zombies just for a little bit. Ed turns out to be turning into a zombie and dying, so they decide the only way to get out of the situation is to go back out into the street. They go back out into the street, but they have to leave Ed, because they don't, he's going to turn into a zombie and he's going to kill them. And he wants to die anyway at this point. He even says to Shaun, I always slow you down, I always drag you down, just leave me. And so Shaun and Ed have this big, parting sort of situation, showing his best friend and that sort of thing. And Liz get back out into the street where they're about to face a bunch of zombies. Then, next thing you know, literally the military come in, kill all the zombies with their big trucks and their machine guns and everything, and they escape, and that's so forth. That's about it. Liz, next scene turns out the Liz and Shaun have decided to get back together. They're actually getting married, and they're living together. After all that, so Shaun, then the last scene of the movie, Shaun turns and he's going to go into the shed to get some stuff. And next thing you know, you see a scene, Shaun goes into the shed, closes the door, and it turns out he's been keeping Ed as a zombie in the shed the entire time as his best friend, that sort of thing. And he keeps him in the shed, and they play video games, and that's the end of the movie. That's it. I thought it was a great movie. If you really watch it, I suggest it's the best movie ever to portray zombies in a comedic light. I suggest you watch it. It's one of my favorite movies. Go watch it. It's great. British zombies, man. British zombies. All right. Anyway, I've been the New Age Movie Rebel. Hope you enjoyed this review. So long.